Hello, everyone. Myles David here, contributing writer for Serve on Sports Illustrated. And it's such an honor for me to be chatting with one of the downright legends in tennis for the first time. I'm here with former WTA world number one, three-time major champion, Olympic gold medalist, current Billie Jean King Cup captain for Team USA, and International Tennis Hall of Fame member, Miss Lindsay Davenport. How are you doing today, Lindsay?
I'm good, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Of course, happy to have you. Lindsay, I know you're in Paris right now covering Roland Garros, and you've made many trips to Paris over the years as both a player and a commentator. Tell me, what are some of the things that you look forward to the most about making that trip?
Anytime you get to go back to a major is pretty exciting. I've always been in love with this sport. I've always acknowledged it's pretty much given me my whole life. So something to focus on when I was little, and certainly my family now. So I still get the goosebumps when I walk through the gates at majors. This one was the toughest for me to play at. I didn't have a game that really did well on this surface. Being from California, I also never really learned how to move on it. So this one presented the most challenges. Ironically, it's the one I like to come back to the most because Paris is so awesome. And this one just has a vibe that's so different from the others. So I've really kind of learned to embrace it. I wish I had embraced it more when I was playing, but certainly the atmosphere, the quality of tennis, all of that, I really take to heart now.
I think you have a pretty strong resume in Paris. I mean, you were number one seed one year, 1996 doubles champion. I mean, hey, you got some hardware from the event.
I struggled through a couple decent years, but it was always this was always the one that was like, oh man, it could go any which way out here in any match.
Everybody has that one.
Yeah.
The coverage for fans at home watching Roland Garros has seen a major shift this year with the TNT Sports and Warner Brothers collab taking over the broadcast for the next decade. They've garnered a really passionate community of sports fans with some of their programming like other sports or in other sports like basketball. How are you feeling about tennis entering that space for fans, and what made you want to join the TNT team?
It's been really exciting to be a part of this kind of new age of covering tennis and to be here with TNT. They've done a remarkable job here of trying to showcase this sport the best way that we can for back to the fans in the United States. It's been a fun group as well. I'm working with, not only my best friends of the sport, but the smartest people in the sport that can storytell, who can break down a match, who have personality. And we were really given free reign. We were told to be, exactly who we are. Call it like we see it. So I think that's been kind of really fun to have a relaxed kind of broadcast, but also be able to be honest with what we're seeing, what we're feeling, and to see, kind of the new inventions that we're trying to come up with, some new cameras, some new show, with the show to try and be a little bit more relaxed and a little bit more conversational. I've really enjoyed being here. The people have been amazing. I'm really excited for the next few years as well.
So am I. Speaking of that conversational piece, I know you've been a commentator for a while now, and you've worked with some really dynamic personalities in the booth during your career. Is there anyone that you've been new to working with on the TNT team that's really impressed you?
Oh, that's interesting. My oldest, and I call him my work husband, is Jim Courier. So I'm happy to see Jim, but everybody knows Jim. I've been lucky to work with him for a while. This is my first time working with Mary Jo Fernandez, who's my best friend. We've always been on other networks, but Sloane Stephens has done a wonderful job here. She came in with just a little bit of TV experience, but you get some people that are just kind of natural when the camera starts rolling, and that's definitely Sloane. We keep encouraging her to, jump in the matches, but she's been great here. It's been fun to get to work with her and to be able to get to know her a little bit better.
That's awesome. Visually, Roland Garros, I think, has really upgraded itself in the last few years with retractable roofs on multiple stadiums, night lights, and the designated evening sessions. But unfortunately, there's been an exclusion of women's matches in those primetime evening sessions for the past 2 years now. What do you personally make of that? And do you think it's sending a certain message across at all?
I've been covering this tournament for a lot of years, and unfortunately, it's just kind of been the mindset of the tournament here that The men get to play in the more preferable slots, the ones that are seen more. Everyone's making, a big deal about the night session. I get that. I had a bigger argument, and it's starting to become more of a topic now with the women always being first, always first match on. There was not one day where the women were not first on Chatrier. Everybody knows that's the least attended match, probably the least viewed television-wise in all the markets, especially in the States, but also here in Europe. So I'd like to see, the women get a little bit more equal footing, for some of the later afternoon sessions. I think it was 4 times out of all these days that the women got to play third. That is another big time slot here in the third afternoon match. So hopefully, we can start to talk about a little bit of change and start to give the women their fair share. They've had some amazing matches as well. They always talk about length. There's been some men's matches that have been very one-sided as well. I'm a believer in both. I love both sports, and I believe that they should be showcased equally.
I agree with that. I definitely do. Speaking of equality, it's June, and a lot of tennis fans are celebrating Pride both on and off the courts. The USTA has changed their branding to Pride colors this month, and Coco Gauff even showed her support to the LGBTQ community with a post to social media saying she's always proud to be an ally. I'm wondering, from your perspective, where you think tennis is right now in terms of being a space for professional athletes to compete, while also, like you said, being true to who they are.
I think tennis has always kind of led the way in that area. I've always, since I came on tour, I was like 15, I think, when I played my first pro event, 15 or 16. And I've always felt that it has been a very inclusive environment on the WTA side. Some of my best friends throughout the years are a part of that community. Billie Jean was my biggest mentor. I give her so much credit for helping me kind of get over that line and becoming a champion. But I think it definitely takes the top players and their support as well. Coco's obviously such an amazing leader at such a young age also. Always willing to speak her mind and always willing to defend whatever she believes in. That's been really important for our sport. But I do believe that women's tennis is a big supporter, and I believe a great supporter of all the rights for that.
For sure. I definitely agree with that. There's been so many pioneers in that space. One of them, speaking of Billie Jean King Cup, or Billie Jean King rather, you're the Billie Jean King Cup captain for Team USA. A lot of fans have had a lot to celebrate in recent years for Team USA, both women and men. I know you spent a lot of time with members of Team USA. How do some of them prioritize Roland Garros as a tournament? And how nice has it been to see some of them make it into the second week of this year's Slam?
Yeah, I like to say I have the greatest job going, being that captain, because right now, it's been amazing right now for U.S. tennis, both on the men's and the women's side. Bob Bryan, the Davis Cup captain, and a great friend of mine. We've had really a blast the last couple of years of being able to lead these amazing people. The vibe between the players is at an all-time high, whether it be between the women themselves or between the men and the women. A lot of support there, a lot of great camaraderie. These players get along well. They hang out together outside the court. And the majors are what it's all about. And right now, having so many great U.S. women's players, we saw a great battle earlier with Gauff and Keys. You have Emma Navarro in there also. It's a really exciting time for me. Trying to get players and their schedule in this day and age has been a big challenge. There's so many important tournaments. A lot of the tournaments are over 2 weeks now, so that makes it a little more challenging as well. These players are on the road a lot, and what they crave a lot of times is to just have a little bit of time at home. So it's so important for these players to get their schedules right, have good teams behind them, and try to have fun on certain weeks. And that's what we're all about with the team aspect. It's a lot of pressure on these players here at the majors. I think you saw it maybe earlier when Gauff played Keys. They didn't play their best tennis. They're good friends. It's kind of hard sometimes in that environment to showcase your best stuff. But this is what these players play for. This is what it's all about. Keys and Gauff both are Grand Slam champions. They know the stakes are high. And I'm looking forward and excited that the Americans played so well here.
There's still a couple left in the draw. Coco Gauff is flying that flag. A different flag that I kind of want to get your opinion on, Iga Swiatek. There's been some instability in her dominant clay court figure coming into Roland Garros. Have you been surprised to see her make her way through the draw in a fairly comfortable fashion despite not having great lead-ups?
You know, the chips were against Iga coming in here. I mean, going into this year's tournament, she had a total of 6 wins over the 3 clay court lead-in tournaments she played. Last year, I think it was like 14. So she fell well below her expectations in the tournaments leading in. And she's been just a little bit rattled now for about 10, 11 months. So has not looked her cool, calm, collected self out there. I wasn't sure what to expect here. Then the draw comes out. She got by far the toughest draw on paper. And she has been amazing here. She has really confronted the challenge, played great, been able to handle a lot of adversity. She had every excuse in the book to mail it in against Rybakina. She did not. Down 8-1. She changed her game style a little bit, moved back, figured out ways to win. So I've been really impressed with her in how she's been able to problem solve here. Going for 4 in a row, there's a lot of pressure on her. No one's been able to do that, the women's side. So I give her a lot of credit for hanging in there and getting better as this tournament's gone on.
Do you think there's something to be said for kind of rekindling the magic at a certain place that you've had prior success at? I think there was somebody that you played in your career that may have had a connection to a certain green place that comes to mind.
Yeah, I think that is the case for players, for Venus at Wimbledon, but also for Swiatek here. I mean, when you've won 4 of the last 5 years, where you've had 1 loss, I just think that you feel like, yeah, this is my place. Someone still has to beat me here on my favorite court. When you're so successful at a tournament, also, you spend the most amount of time on that court. You start to understand every single nook and cranny. You understand the wind patterns. You understand kind of everything that's going on out there. For players that don't get a lot of matches on those big courts, sometimes the matches come down to just a couple occasions, and the player that's most comfortable in that situation typically comes out ahead. And for Iga, this is her favorite court. I think part of the reason why her year started to turn last year was she didn't win the gold medal here. I think it was shocking to her to lose in the semis. Maybe didn't handle that loss so well. Olympics meant a lot to her. But I think it's given her that extra little pep in her step here at Roland Garros so far.
Kind of keeping with Roland Garros, we've entered an era now that officially won't include Rafa Nadal, who's on the tournament. Novak Djokovic seems as he's a little bit closer to the end of his rope, playing pretty selectively. But then there's this whole host of young guns grappling to hoist big trophies led by Alcaraz and Sinner. Do you think the Grand Slams, maybe even particular Roland Garros, will have a little bit more room to be passed around by different names, or are we already seeing the beginning of a new era with the freshly dubbed new 2 in Alcaraz and Sinner?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure Sasha Zverev hoped that's the case and that there's some more to go around. I mean, he's been close a few times, has been able to pull through. But as looking at this tournament so far, it's hard to imagine a winner other than Sinner and Alcaraz. They have been so good throughout. We can't forget, obviously, Novak, who's played so well. It's just been different for Novak the last year, where injuries have really been a huge talking point. For a guy who seemed like an Iron Man, all of a sudden, Father Time hasn't caught up, had the knee operation last year after Roland Garros, had to withdraw in Australia with the hamstring. It just seems like the injuries are becoming more of a talking point for Novak. And, you know, when you play 3 out of 5 sets and you have to win 7 matches, you can't have your body breaking down. So it's tough to see Sinner Alcaraz not winning here, especially how they both played in their previous matches. But, you know, we'll see these last few days. Hard to bet against a 24-time Grand Slam champion as well.
For sure. The last thing I wanted to think about, or ask you about rather, is the kind of mirroring of surfaces that are happening right now. Like, you know, back in the day, there used to only be like maybe 2 weeks between Roland Garros and Wimbledon. Do you think there's any connection between some of the players that we're seeing being successful and going deep in Roland Garros that we may see again in a couple of weeks go deep at Wimbledon because the surfaces aren't drastically different like they used to be?
Yeah, I mean, it used to be clay court specialist, right? And then it used to be the fast court specialist at Wimbledon. And sometimes the players that won here, sometimes they didn't even show up at Wimbledon. You know, they're like, it's not going to happen. Now it's a little bit easier to transition between the two. They've slowed the grass down at Wimbledon. They added that extra week, so there's now 3 weeks in between Roland Garros and Wimbledon. It used to be 2. I think they're trying to get the players to be able to play better tennis at Wimbledon, to have the rallies be more exciting. But it's still grass, and it's still going to favor the player who is aggressive and serves well. We've seen, though, in the last 10, 15 years, players be able to make deep runs at both. That wasn't so much the case in the 90s. So a lot of credit to these players and their teams that are able to kind of reset in such a short amount of time and get ready for another major.
For sure. Yeah, there's a lot to look forward to this summer, and I'm excited to watch it all, for sure. I think that concludes the questions I had for you. See, I told you it was short and sweet.
Awesome. It was great talking with you. Please let me know if you ever have any more questions. I'm always kind of around.
Thank you. My friend John Garica, he does the Fantastic
Tennis
podcast.
Yeah.
He's talked so nicely of you.
Yeah, he's a great guy. I haven't talked to him though in a while. But I need to get back in touch.
He calmed me down. I was like, "Oh my God, John, I'm so nervous." He was like, "Don't worry, Lindsay's cool."
Don't be nervous. Don't be nervous here. Yeah. Awesome.
But it was fun talking to you. Have fun in Paris.
Thank you so much. Anytime.